We'll do two classes then on the Bavli because there's just too much material to do in one class, and I don't want to just sit here reading all the Gemara because that would not be fun. And then maybe we'll just do one final, um, other stories of Acher and final class. We'll see what is left. But I think what you'll find there are certain similarities between the Bavli and the Yerushalmi. The conversations with Rav Meir, right? Certainly some of the psukim, some of the verses, but there are some very, very stark and important differences. Right? How we define cutting down the shoots or kitzeitz benetiot, and what drives Acher to heresy. Right? If we remember what drives Acher to heresy in the Yerushalmi and the Jerusalem Talmud,
He was born bad.
that's answer 3. He was born bad. Okay.
And his father.
No, that was okay. That was part of it. Also born bad mother and father.
He saw a man who saved the bird who fell out of the nest die.
Yep, there are 2 points for Charles, right? He saw the person who was sending away the mother bird fall out of the tree and die, and the one who took the mother bird lived happily ever after. And he saw the tongue of Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava, who was a great Talmid Chacham, whose tongue taught so much Torah, and it was cut out flapping around in the street after being cut out. We don't have the tongue here. The tongue is not here, Lord. Don't worry. There's no show and tell. Right? So part of that issue, right, is certainly schar ve'onesh. He sees something, either he's born rotten or he sees something terrible, and it turns him into a heretic, a child murdering heretic. Good. With that in mind, let us read the first piece in the Bavli, thinking about those questions, right? What does it mean to cut down the shoots? But really, what is it that drives him to heresy? And this is a very, very different story. Again, I'm going to read the English, but you do have the Gemara and the Bavli right there on top of the page. It is the page that starts Talmud Bavli Masechet Chagiga. Acher gazed and cut the shoots. Right? So about him, scripture says, let not your mouth lead you into sin. Right? Do not say before the malach that it was an error. Else God may be angered by your talk and destroy the work of your hands. Right? That's the pasuk. And now, what did he see? We don't have Rabbi Yehuda's tongue. We don't have the guy falling out of the tree. We have something entirely different. Again, for those online, the source sheet is in the chat box. So it is there for you. He saw Metatron, right, the great angel, to whom was given permission 1 hour each day to sit and write the merits of Israel. Okay, what does that mean? That's a good question. No idea. Okay. He said, right, so now Acher says to himself, or at this point in the Gemara, he's actually Elisha ben Avuya, it is taught on high there is no standing and no sitting, no jealousy and no rivalry, no back and no weariness. Right? Lamala, I mean, talking about Hashem, that there's none of these things. What is Metatron doing? Is he standing or sitting?
Sitting.
He is sitting. Right? Perhaps, heaven forbid, there are 2 divine powers. Right? Because he sees this vision. Now, this actually might be, right, in the, what's it called? The Pardes. Right? Because what is the Pardes? Does Yerushalmi define the Pardes?
No.
Right? What is the Pardes? Who knows? But maybe the Pardes is the angelic world. So he sees Metatron and he's sitting. And now he says to himself, wait a minute. God's not allowed to sit, but there's a being that's here and it is sitting. Maybe there's not one God, there are 2 gods. Immediately, they brought out Metatron and struck him with 60 lashes of fire. How do you strike an angel with fire? That's another good question. Those are questions I don't have answers to. He was given permission to burn the merits of Acher. a heavenly voice went out and said to him, return rebellious children, right? Shuvu banim shovavim, chutz me'acher, with the exception of acher. Okay, now before we read on, does that make any sense at all? No, no. What specifically does not make sense about this? First of all, what brings acher to heresy?
Then he says that there's two deities.
Right. Now, does he say there are two deities, or he
He
says
says perhaps.
perhaps, maybe? He doesn't even say there are. Maybe there's two deities. Right? What? Right, meaning it's not even like this is an utterance of heresy, it's a wonder.
No, but even for him to think that is heresy at his,
Well,
especially
yes,
at his level, even
I
that's
agree with
heresy.
that. Yes.
Why?
To
Because
propose that there might be two deities is heretical.
Maybe he's just wondering about what he saw. Maybe there are two deities. Maybe I got it wrong. Who knows?
Well, you could look at what he saw and say, how can it be that Metatron is sitting? You don't have to take that leap to, there must be a second page.
He doesn't say there must.
There could be.
Perhaps.
There could be a second page. It's still a leap.
It is a leap. It's not great. Is that as bad as before? Right? What does he do before? He goes and murders children. Which is worse?
oh, hold on, was that before or after? When he cuts down the shoots, I think that comes after, because it's after he leaves Pardes.
He's the heresy, and then as a result, he goes and he kills the children.
Okay, but that's after.
Yes, it's after, but it drives him to, all right, he sees something, he becomes a heretic, and it drives him to do terrible things. Right here, and then the entire discussion of tshuva is afterwards. Here, let me rephrase this. What could have been the response from on high? If you were God, play a game. This is a fun game to play.
Wait a
Rabbi,
It's a
you
fun
got to be
game
careful.
to
This is
play.
heretical. This is
Yes.
heresy.
What is heresy?
if to play God.
No, it's not. We don't really believe we're God. We don't. I mean, if you really believed it, it'd be heresy.
If there's no standing and no sitting, what position's left other than, I mean, I'm not sure what's left. I'm trying.
Scratch that for a moment.
Okay.
Answer. I'm interested in answering my question before. I don't know what that question means. I mean, I do, but I don't. What could the divine response have been?
Hitting him with lashes of fire. Hitting the.
Well, we really hate Acher. Let's say we liked Acher. Let's say we actually liked the guy.
Explaining what's going on.
Yes, meaning why doesn't somebody just say, no, listen, I know this looks funny and it looks strange, but this is what's happening. And then poor Elisha ben Avuya would never become Acher, and life would go on and be good. Right? The response here is, the first thing that happens is, first of all, why did they beat Metatron?
Even giving the impression, right? For following out, if even following the rule, but even creating the impression.
Go back to the first line of the Gemara. He was given permission, says Ernest. I mean, he was given permission to do this. It is much less clear than the Yerushalmi. Number one, why is Metatron being punished for doing what he's given permission to do?
Because who else knew? But who else knew? Who else knew other than Metatron that he was given permission to do it? And if you see others coming, then maybe you have an obligation to not to not infer that impression, not to confer that impression.
So I would hate to be on a jury where you were the judge, buddy. Yeah, it's harsh, right? Meaning, yes, that's true, but that's really harsh.
Yes.
Meaning Metatron should have figured out, like
Enoch should have known. Enoch should have known, and Metatron should have known.
and then who gives him permission to burn the merits of Acher? Yeah, that Kadosh Baruch Hu. My point is, I don't know, in my book, this is very harsh. The reaction to Acher is harsh. The reaction to Metatron is harsh, very harsh. Right? He gets fiery lashes, and then as a result of maybe something he should have been more sensitive to, we're burning the zchuyos of Acher, and then we're declaring he can never do tshuva because he had a thought that maybe there's two deities, a fleeting thought, and he's damned forever.
that could be the same conclusion that you come to when you saw the person doing shoo at the tree. There are two deities battling. One says shoo away the bird. One says I'm going to throw it out of the tree.
Except there's no mention of that at all, right? This
No,
this
the ancient world, that was a very common way of looking at things. So
100%. Well, they had multiple gods,
Yeah.
right? They had multiple gods. I don't know. To me, it seems like this is not as clear cut. Yeah.
Is there any way that him could refer to him being struck with 60 lashes could refer to Akka?
No. No, that is in the Hebrew in the third line. So in the Aramaic, it says afkuhu lemetatron. It's like the four, 5 words in. Umachyu shitin pulse de Nora. And they give him the 60 lashes. Nora, right? We know Nora from Asa Nuraba, right? Chagadia. That's where we know Aramaic from. No. Yeah.
That's what we
Right. That's where we know Aramaic from. The fire comes and burns the stick that beat the, yeah. Okay, as it goes, and it goes, and it goes. But that's clearly referring to Metatron.
It's the same verse that we got last week.
Yes, same verse. That's the only thing that's the same. This is a much more complicated and confusing scenario, right? And before Acher does anything, he's damned forever. Shuvu banim shobavim chutz ma'acher. Acher is done. He's gone. There is nothing left for him.
This whole episode is going on. If it's not in Shamayim, it's at least where the gates, the windows to Shamayim are open.
It's somewhere.
Whereas the previous episode
Is happening in this world. Right. This is maybe happening in the Pardes.
Isn't it somewhat of a letdown or a violation even to perhaps assume that there are two, like,
Yeah, so okay, so right, so I'm not saying that this is wonderful that Elisha ben Avuya thinks to himself, okay, but he's seeing a heavenly vision, he's very confused, and he says something wrong, and then we killed the guy. We just wiped the floor with him and we kill him.
they felt not that, but somewhat. You just have the Jewish here, and also they say, maybe an indication, God forbid, that there are two gods.
He's not giving a shear.
I understand, but
It's a fleeting thought in his head.
yeah, but have that thought, it means that you lack the understanding and faith. in
Okay, and let's say he lacked complete faith. We should damn him forever? I don't know. Right? We have Gemaras that Moshe Rabbeinu complains to Hashem in very much the same way. Right? Moshe Rabbeinu in that famous Agata with Rabbi Akiva, he sees Rabbi Akiva's flesh being flayed, and Moshe Rabbeinu comes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and says, Zu Torah v'zu schara, this is the Torah and its reward. And God tells him basically to shut up, be quiet, I'll destroy the world. And Moshe Rabbeinu is damned forever.
So maybe there's more basis here than just this one incident with Acher. So maybe it goes back to all the things that he was doing while he was in learning and what he was actually learning along the way to even make him say this, make this kind of statement.
Maybe yes, maybe no, but there's no proof to that at all from this Gemara. Right?
Not from this part, not this segment of the Gemara, but
Well,
there.
Very large segment of the Gemara. It's the
Right.
prime sugya, and it doesn't deal with it. Again, to me, it is a much more difficult. This is almost right in the other Gemara. Yes, so something happens. He's led to heresy. He does something terrible. He can't do tshuva. Here, before he has done a thing, he has a thought. It's not a good thought. I agree with all of you. It's not a good thought. Could you imagine if every time we had a not good thought, we'd be damned forever? We'd have a lot of damned forever in this place. Another good question. Right? This is all in this Pardes, which is maybe why nobody comes out of the Pardes except
Akiva.
Right? Except for Rabbi Akiva. Right? Maybe,
Might not have
and I
said that.
think it's intentional, right? The Pardes is confusing. I don't know that this is supposed to make sense. Good.
What day that brought up that.
Oh, Rabbi, if that's going to be the theory, then you got to put into practice the 4 that went in, right? Who was whole and who was not just the way they come out.
No, I understand that, but
Right.
you have a limited scope in the shear. You're 100% right. There's
Sorry.
I mentioned in the beginning of the first year, we're only focusing on Elisha ben Avuya because Otherwise, we're all over the place, and I want to try and keep it focused. Yes, you have to do a comparison and contrast as to the four personalities that went in, who they were about, why they reacted this way, why does Rabbi Akiva come out good, why does one get killed immediately, why do all those things happen? All very good. But we're really only going to focus on Elisha ben Avuya. Good. Now let's read the continuation and we'll see what cutting the shoots mean, and we'll see why he's called Acher. This is an amazing story. So he says to himself, he said, since that man has been banished from that world, from the world to come, I'm going to enjoy myself in this world. I'm going to have a grand old time. Acher went out to evil ways. He found a certain prostitute. He propositioned her. She says to him, aren't you Elisha ben Avuya? Aren't you that holy guy? How could you be soliciting a prostitute? Right, whose name went throughout the world. You're famous. He uprooted a radish on Shabbos and gave it to her. Right? What was the point of doing that?
Violate Shabbos.
Yeah, to violate Shabbos, I ain't that guy, or I'm not that guy anymore. Right? The famous Elisha ben Avuya would never violate Shabbos by uprooting a radish. She says to him, it is another, right? In the Aramaic, Acherhu. This is somebody else. This is not Elisha ben Avuya. Right? Now we actually learn the derivation of the name Acher. Acher is somebody different, not Elisha ben Avuya. And what does it mean to cut the shoots?
Well played.
Cut the shoot of the radish. Not killing the children, cut the shoots. But here, again, the first time he sins actively is only after he has been told that his place in the world to come is finished and over. Right? This is, again, I know everybody else seems to want to crucify Acher. To me, this is a much more sympathetic reading of Acher. Right? He didn't do, I mean, again, should he have?
Is this intended to be the whole story, or is this intended to be just an example?
An example of?
You assume that he didn't do anything else worse before this? This is the sum total of his evil deeds to that point?
Yeah, I mean, until this point, he was Elisha ben Avuya. He was a holy man.
Well, he had merits, obviously, that were worth learning.
Lots of merits. He was Elisha ben Avuya. He was a big Talmid Chacham. He was her mayor's Rebbe. I mean, this was somebody. This was somebody real. Again, this is a much more, to me, sympathetic version. He doesn't do anything wrong until God cuts him off. And I think he's treated harshly in the heavenly realm. I think.
Sound like a very woke rabbi.
But Rabbi, we have to be careful because
Sentence.
because Acher's, what led him down the path was to think, to start with, that the first person was treated unfairly when they perished, even though they had performed the mitzvah. I'm abbreviating here, but
And therefore we should be careful. Why?
in other words, what I'm getting at is maybe the whole thing is meant as a cautionary tale to all of us as to how not to
uproot
think.
radishes on Shabbos because you with a prostitute.
No. How not to think about things that we can see no good reason.
Yeah,
for.
again,
So,
I get that, but I think at some point, take October 7th as a point of reference, right? Did any of us at some point think to ourselves, right, God, where the heck were you? What's wrong with you? How'd you let this happen? Right? I think probably every one of us. Is that a heretical thought? I don't know. I don't think having a thought of doubt at some point in your life, especially after being in a confusing pardes, right, means that there's no chance of tshuva. All your zchuyos are burned up, and there's no chance of tshuva. He has not yet uprooted the radish. He has not yet solicited the prostitute. He hasn't done anything besides have that thought.
But again, that particular thought is
I
effectively,
but it's not that different than where was God, right? God.
No, but it's not, because one is about the Zara, because you're saying the potential multiple deities. You can ask where was God, but we ask that all the time. right?
So again, you have it out for Elisha ben Avuya.
No, I don't. I actually love Acher.
You love him.
I
Show
love
some
him.
love, Jan. Come on,
No,
show a little love.
I love him. He's
You
in my
love
top
him.
five. He's in my top five.
Should that worry us, Jan?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Top five
I don't know, but I'm talking to Jan in the black box. I can't even see his face, right?
Because I'm still in the office. But here,
That's
just for
okay.
you,
No.
Rabbi. Just for you, I'll do that.
There you go. Now it's no. Again, I do you not agree with me that what he did in the Yerushalmi is worse before he gets cut off? I'm not saying it's a good thing to have thoughts about multiple deities. I'm not saying it's a good thing.
One God. Don't believe in God, and it's all out the window.
He has a fleeting thought that
heaven forbid.
maybe why doesn't God just say, "Nobody, I'm here. This is an angel," and let him go back to being a big tzaddik?
I don't disagree, but in the perspective of the times, again, they were surrounded by the Greeks.
I'm not interested. Again, I grant you all of it. I grant everybody all of it. It's a bad thought. We should
But
burn
it's
his.
it's a very bad thought.
Right, if
It's,
Cheryl Elias thought that, who cares? Maybe even a local rabbi, but if you're taking someone of that esteemed and that, the next paragraph shows.
And you should burn all of his merits and damn him to hell forever? I don't know.
He doesn't stand for the basic concept of Judaism.
He's having trouble understanding a scene that he sees in heaven. And
but
it's a
he doesn't
maybe.
phrase it as, why are you sitting down? He
Right.
phrases it as, oh,
Immediately,
maybe the very basis, the very tenet of my religion is false.
I agree.
It's-
And we should just kill him for it.
but
He got killed. Hold on. We demolished him. We burned all of his merits and banished him from returning to God forever. That's harsh. Wow. I don't want you to be my judge either. Oof. Harsh critics.
Merits.
Metatron, but clearly with God's
Is it Kadosh Baruch Hu that's got a problem with Acher, or is it his contemporaries that have a problem trying to understand what happened and where his beliefs are, and the lack of any acceptance of anything but the blinders on down the road?
So clearly, right, this is being written, this is the perspective of the rabbis writing the story. But I'm simply trying to understand that perspective. And in that perspective,
That's a really horrible thing to think.
But that perspective is
From
that
based
perspective.
upon the rabbis.
we're going in circles, so I think we'll just move on. I don't disagree it's a bad thought. What I'm saying is,
It shouldn't be the end all.
I think, I don't know.
Metron is punished also, so by provoking that thought.
And I have no idea why, nobody knows why
Well,
Metatron
it
is
seems like
punished.
From that, you're gonna accept everything as this is.
What?
This is what
What
happened.
is
this is the
Metatron?
sum
Metatron's an angel.
I suppose, yeah.
In this world, he is an angel.
He gets punished to provoke out there.
But with permission, he's given permission to do it again. So now we're kind of going in circles. I think we'll move on because we've covered this, but it's given permission. It is much more confusing than Yerushalmi. Okay. All right. Let's keep going. We'll see how far we get. Okay. Turn the page over. Again, if you want the Aramaic, it's on the middle of the first page. But the English is on. And now we have our dialogue between Acher and Rabbi Meir. Right? He went out after he went out into evil ways. Right? So now he's had the prostitute, he uprooted the radish. I'm sure he did some other bad things to this point. He's out. Do we blame Acher, by the way? Do you blame him?
No.
No, not necessarily. Right? I mean, he's cut off. He's done. I'm out. He goes, right? Acher asks Rab Meir, it's written, the one no less than the other is God's doing. Right, let's read that in Hebrew, because right, Gam et zeh leumat zeh asa Elokim. Right. God made this one and that one, right? Almost corresponding to each other. Zeh leumat zeh. That's actually, the English is a little confusing, right? And he says everything that God made, he made its counterpart. He made mountains, he made hills, he made oceans, he made rivers. He's right. So that, again, very much like last time, not a tremendous chiddush in the first in the first limud. And this is again similar to the Yerushalmi. He said to him, Akiva, your master, did not say this. Rather, he said, he made righteous and he made wicked. He made the Garden of Eden, he made Gehenna. Right? Each and every person has two portions, one in the Garden of Eden and one in Gehenna. The righteous man, having earned merit, takes his portion and the portion of his fellow in the Garden of Eden. The wicked man, having been found guilty, takes his portion and the portion of his fellow in Gehenna. Right? That's kind of fascinating. Rav Meir gives a very powerful interpretation of the verse. What does Acher do? Quotes from Rabbi Akiva. What does it tell you about Acher?
Brilliant.
What?
But he's brilliant.
But what about him personally? He's doomed.
He's doomed, yeah.
He is doomed because what happened? He's taking his part in hell and his
And
buddy.
rabbis.
Yeah.
And rabbis.
Right. I mean, he's done and he's gone. Right? As if to say to Rabbi Meir, who's still engaging with him, I'm done, buddy. Right? Rabbi Meir clearly has some interest, and Acher says, I'm done. I'm written off. I'm finished. I'm gone. I get my part in hell. I get your part in hell. All I get is hell. Okay. Next. B. After he went out into evil ways, Acher asked Rabbi Meir, what is written? Gold or glass cannot match its value, nor vessels of fine gold be exchanged for it. Right? Right? So that's actually a decent interpretation. He says this refers to matters of Torah that are difficult to acquire, like vessels of gold and vessels of fine gold, and easy to lose, like vessels of glass. Right? Now we've actually flipped the script. At this point, this interpretation is Rabbi Meir saying to Acher, you're damned. You're finished. Right? The Torah is hard to acquire and easy to lose. And who lost it? You lost it, buddy. He, Acher, says back to him, by God, are they even like clay vessels? Acher says to him, Akiva, your master did not say thus. Rather, just as vessels of gold and vessels of glass, even if they are broken, they can be restored. So sages who sin can be restored. Right? We've flipped it entirely. Acher now says, no, this verse is teaching you. It's almost like he's playing with Rameir a little bit. Right? What does Rameir then say to him? Right? He says to him, so then repent. Right? If this is your limit of the pasuk that you can be restored, so do tshuva. And he says to him, for no, I have already heard from behind the curtain, return rebellious children, except for. Okay, now look at C. Our sages taught. It once happened that Acher was riding his horse on the Sabbath, going on his way. What's missing, by the way, from this? He's not in front of the synagogue. He's not in front of the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Rav Meir was walking after him to learn Torah from his mouth. He said to Meir, turn back, since I have already measured by the footsteps of my horse that the Sabbath boundary is here. That story is common to both. He said to him, then you too should repent. Right? The same way I have to go back. Right? In Hebrew, the play on words is good. Chazor, like chazara b'tshuva. So if I have to go back, you can also go back. Do some tshuva. And he says, I have already heard from behind the curtain, return rebellious children, except Acher. Right, so here, by the way, there's two and not three. There were three limudim in the Yerushalmi, there's only two here. Here, Rav Meir actually picks up much quicker It only takes him 2 limudim to get smart. And the question, of course, by each one is, why don't you should do tshuva? So now we have something which you don't have in the Yerushalmi. So it used to be that back in the day, one of the ways to figure out like divination was to go to the Beis Medrash and ask a child what they learned. Right? Those stories are littered throughout the Gemara. That wasn't just a cute story. It actually is a way to tap into something. I don't know. Right? Otherworldly things. You want to know the truth? Ask a child what they learned. The pasuk is going to pop out. Right? It's kind of like the Goral Hagra. You know that is when you're not sure. You just open the Gruz. You open the Tanakh and then something happens and magic happens. And I have no idea. But there are these things that people do. So this is one of those things. You go to the Beis Medrash, ask a child, and he's like Ruach Hakodesh going to give you the answer.
Just in case you do.
I have no idea. Go to the Kollel, see what happens. So he Meir takes a hold of Acher, right? He's almost forcing him. And he brought him to the house of study. He said to a child, tell me your study verse, right? What are you learning today? And he says to him, there is no peace, said the Lord, for the wicked. What is Acher's fate?
He's done.
He's done. B, he brought him to another house of study. The child said to him, though you wash with natron and much lye, your guilt is ingrained before me, declares the Lord, which means
You're done.
you're done. Cannot wipe
You're
it out.
doubly done. Doubly done.
D, he brought him to another house of study. And he, the child, said to him, and you who are doomed to ruin. It's not very good. This is right. This is not looking good for Acher. D, he brought him to 13 houses of study. They recited for him in similar ways. The child in the 13th house of study says, and to the wicked, right? Rasha, God said, who are you to recite my laws? The mouth determines my confidence, seeing that you spurn my discipline and brush my words aside. The child stuttered, so it sounded as if he said Elisha, right? Ula Rasha, Elisha, with a stutter that might well sound the same, right? Which means that, was Elisha really done? Maybe, maybe not. It almost sounds like because he misheard it, he thought it was about him. And therefore, some say Acher took a knife and cut him up and sent him to the 13 houses of study. And some say Acher said to him, if I had a knife with me, I would cut you up. Which brings us, of course, it brings us back to the Yerushalmi, where he's cutting up children. Some actually think, because this is so out of character for the Bavli, that maybe this is a Yerushalmi influence that has crept its way into the Bavli. And even then, maybe he cut them up, right? Sort of reminds us of the story of Pilegesh Begiva, where she's cut up into 12 pieces and sent to all the tribes. I don't know if there's anything there. Again, that's the end of at least the Gemara for today, right? In that last verse, is there hope for Elisha or not?
As of now, no.
Right, because even the verse itself, is the verse itself positive? Not really, right? And to the Ula Rasha, God says,
Stop spending self-discipline, but towards the sign. Things could be different.
possible, right? It's possible there's almost a glimmer of hope, but we're not sure. But it seems very much, right? And where it leaves us, we'll pick up next week, though, is in the Yerushalmi, it seems at the end he does tshuva, even though his sins are worse. Here, his sins are not as bad, and it seems that there's no tshuva for him. right? There's a symmetry that's off. And that again is in line with the harshness of the Yerushalmi. But let's call him. Happy to take any questions. And then we'll do the rest of the Gemara next class. Yes, any last questions?
Chronologically,
Yes.
you're sure that the issue with the prostitute and the radish like happened before the instances of Mayor?
Yeah, so that is how it's presented in the Gemara.
Is there,
No, I mean,
is there absolutely no? Because you're saying, you said that the radish doesn't seem like such a big deal.
no, I didn't say that.
No, but
I didn't say the
it's-
radish doesn't look, I'd rather have somebody cut out a radish than murder children,
Right, but I'm saying to you,
I
but
think.
I
I don't think.
I was making an assumption that this was not straight chronology, but that the other instances of his disobedience and lack of faith occurred before the radish, so the radish wouldn't be a standalone.
So
There is
the,
a
hold on,
difference, I think,
forget,
about
the radish is interesting because he doesn't uproot the radish to be Mechal Shabbos, which is fascinating in its own right, right? He's not, some people Mechal Shabbos, and the assumption used to be, if you Mechal Shabbos, you are rejecting the creator of the world. He's not even being Mechal Shabbos to do that. He's being Mechal Shabbos to get the prostitute.
Yeah, but-
Right, meaning his interest is more in proving that he's not so religious than in spurning God.
Right. And to
Right?
prove he's not religious, he has to be Mahalo Shabbat.
Yeah. And
So
and apparently it
that's-
works.
Yeah, but that's what so he is Mahalo Shabbat. It doesn't matter that that's his only.
No, but that was after he was cut off. Again, that was after he was cut off
Right,
and his merits burned and he told us no tshuva, so he went and he sinned.
but it's possible that the other.
So anything is possible, but the Gemara
Talk about he's going out to this.
back
food
so
rock.
back to
He's
Yossi's
already
point
started to do
before.
that thing.
The story is presented by the rabbis writing it. If they wanted you to have a different perspective, they would have had all these psukim beforehand. But this is the manner in which the Gemara is presented, and that's
So you
important.
always assume it's like just chronologically straight.
So I don't even know if all these things happened. Meaning I'm meaning straight chronology. I don't know if the rabbis didn't make this conversation up.
On cumulative sin, how much.
Acher could be sitting in Gan Eden right now. We have no idea, right? If Jan would like that, if he's one of your top 5, right?
Yeah.
But
Things are not.
no,
chronologically
so again,
accurate.
this is a story. Story is read as literature. This is a story in the Gemara. If you want to understand what the authors of the story are trying to teach you, you do have to pay attention to the order in which the facts are presented. If you wanted to write it differently, you would be welcome to, but you're not writing. And I do think that in terms of the perspective of the Gemara in the Bavli as it's being presented, because it is being presented in this fashion and this order, that's important. So to go and rearrange the order, you could do what you want, but it's not fair to the authors of the Bavli, right? When Ravina and Ravashi put it together, they do so on purpose.
Could be recalling something.
Yeah, but
It says, since I've been banished. It sounds like that's the first thing. He didn't say, since I've been banished and I've done all these terrible things, I might as well do one more. This seems to be the sequence right after.
Again,
You say,
I
I already heard.
I mean, Ravina and
Return.
Ravashi, you're assuming that these things all happen. I have no idea if they happen. Right? What I'm saying is this is presented by, at the end of the day, it's Ravina and Ravashi, or it's the Savarim the next 200 years. Whoever has final say on redacting this Gemara presents it in this fashion and wants us to read it in this fashion, and that is the way you have to read it if you want to understand the Bavli's perspective on Acher. As the same way the Yerushalmi story is different, the Yerushalmi has a different perspective on Acher.
A lot of it doesn't, as we said, a lot of it doesn't make sense.
Agreed, and I think that's on purpose, right? I think the confusion is part of the Pardes, right? The part that I left out beforehand, and maybe we'll get back to that at some point, right? There's the description in the Yerushalmi of the Pardes is non-existent. There is a minor description, if you remember from the podcast. Who here did the podcast? Nobody? Jeff did.
Which the morning,
Yeah,
yeah, I listened to that.
right. So you remember when he says, when you see the white marble, don't say it's water, don't lie to God.
Mhm.
That means, right, but okay, but there's at least some vision of the Pardes that we can assume this might be in the Pardes. And I think it's written in a confusing fashion because the Pardes is supposed to confuse you. It confused the heck out of Acher. Maybe it's not supposed to make sense, but I do think it is important when you read stories in the Gemara that the order in which they are presented do accurately portray the authors of, or the redactors, whoever we call them, of the material. They presented it this way and they want us to understand it this way, right? If they wanted it differently, they would have reordered it, just like the Yerushalmi did, right? In the Yerushalmi, first all the bad things happen, and then he's cut off. Here he's cut off, so he decides to hell with it, I'm out, right? If my merits are burned and I'm going to hell, I should go legitimate, right? Here comes the prostitute. Let me go for real, right? No, I mean, it kind of makes sense. I'm going there anyways. I should enjoy my life here.
Burns his penalties beforehand. He's recidivist.
No, again, we have it out. I don't want everybody has it out for Acher. Have some heart. Have a heart. Why we have it out for Acher? I don't know. I think in the Yerushalmi, after he murders children, we cut him off. Here he's cut off for a thought. It's very, to me, it's hard.
What does it say about Rabbi Meir that he doesn't believe a voice from heaven? The voice from heaven said, everyone can do tshuva except
Hold
Acher."
on. Did he ever hear the voice? Did Rameir hear the voice? No.
Perhaps not, but Acher keeps citing it, saying, I heard the voice from heaven
You don't
say.
trust Acher, do you?
Acher's sleeping with prostitutes. We don't trust that guy. No, I mean, he's pulling out radishes. Rameir never hears the voice, or never says in the Gemara anywhere that Rameir hears the Baskol, or Rameir hears it. This is what Acher believes. Acher believes, and Rameir holds out hope.
He didn't have an untarnished reputation at that point.
No, he went into the gym,
He went in completely untarnished, sparkling.
sparkling clean. Who knows?
The rabbis anyway don't always listen to what the Black Hole tells them.
That is true, right? That is true. I actually ignore bot calls all the time.
Yeah.
I don't even remember my dreams.
How many daughters do you have?
That's called bot.
Sure. No, again, that's the famous story. That's an amazing different Gemara, right? We're interestingly, it's Rabbi Akiva, not Acher. It's Rabbi Akiva who tells God to go to get lost, right? Halacha's ours. Go back to the heavenly realm and butt out. All right, that's an amazing Gemara and halachic process. But we're talking about Acher, not halachic process. And I think it's fascinating. Anyone else? Questions, thoughts?
So, Rabbi,
Yes.
I derive again from the classes and from the harshness that you're describing with the Bavli, all the more that it's meant to be a cautionary tale. In other words, if someone on such a high level as Acher is capable of falling so far from even the possibility of redemption, I think the harshness underlies the caution with which we're being
That certainly could
taught.
be one of the lessons. Maybe that lesson is stay out of the parties. Again, I don't deny that, right? You could certainly fall. That could be a potential lesson. I'm more interested in their perspective on Acher than the lessons per se, since I don't plan on entering the parties anytime soon. I'm not even sure what the entrance is. I don't know how to get in.
Started defensive Acher and WhatsApp group.
I would.
Get you a t-shirt.
A Bavli defense of Acher. And the Yerushalmi, he deserves it. Again, he's a child murderer. He deserves it.
Change brother's name to Big Acher.
No, let's not get crazy now. No, he's not in my Jen. He's not in my top 5. Say, I don't put him in my
I don't
top
know.
5. I just
But then
think
again, Kine makes it in my top 5 too. So
who does?
Kine,
Kayin.
You
yeah.
said top 5 what?
Like like if you have like
you need an intervention, Jan.
yes, I need a lot of intervention.
You need an intervention. Okay. Kayin makes it in. I'm afraid to ask who else is in the top 5. Another time.
Another time. Right.
I think that the two Gemaras take two different philosophical views. The philosophical, the Yerushalmi, is that God's law is inconsistent, and I'm struggling with that. I just can't accept. I can't.
Right.
And here, the philosophical route is maybe there's multiple powers. It's a different approach.
It's
to
fundamentally different,
dealing with-
100%.
Dealing with essentially the same problem.
100%, fundamentally
And I think
different.
it's better, I think the philosophy, the different philosophy is actually very interesting and probably would bear investigation, why one is taking one philosophical approach and one is taking the other philosophical approach.
One is tempted to argue that set in Babylonia, the culture was, I think, much more into that. But you'd have to actually go ahead and investigate that,
Yeah.
but that's possible.
I don't know, I read it as a driven leaf. I remember it was a long time ago. And I remember, did you read it?
I did,
Yeah.
a long
Remember
time ago
how-
also.
About the interaction, he had a lot, it was.
I don't
described-
remember anything.
So it describes how he had a lot of interaction with the Greeks. And that was, he was struggling with that, the Greeks, of course, is a world of multiple gods. And how he was really, struggling with,
Right,
struggling
but
intellectually.
that's all conjecture,
Yeah, it's all conjecture.
right?
Yeah.
And again,
Well, yes.
Milton
except that it's
Sire,
just-
he's allowed to write the story the way he wants.
Yeah.
But I think, as I said to Shem, when we're reading the Bavli, we have to read it and understand it the way it's presented.
Yeah.
That's part of the challenge. All right, with that, I wish everyone a good evening. Shkoach to all.